contextual advertising. Entering the international market. This is a completely reasonable question for Ukrainian businesses, since many of us are displaced persons, and many are expanding their businesses to other countries around the world, such as Poland, Romania, Europe, America, and so on. Today, I'm Yevhen Kolostenko, an expert in advertising and analytics in Ukraine. Today, we will look at the options for expansion and launching advertising, from the simplest to the most complex. For example, launching e-commerce in EU countries. So let's start with the simplest case. First, launching from scratch in another country. When you arrive in a new country, you analyze the demand in your niche using the keyword planner. Next, you create a website, launch your ads, set up your contact information, and start testing your contextual advertising. This is the simplest scenario when launching contextual advertising in the international market. Second, launching an additional country while operating in Ukraine. For example, you have a running business in Ukraine and you want to open new salons, say in Poland. How do you do this and how do you advertise them? You create an additional language version of your website, for example, in Polish. You had a Ukrainian version, now you make a Polish one, and there you set up your contact information, describe your advantages, and so on. You can also create subdomains, but we do not recommend this. This is a more complicated administrative option. Third, launching online commerce in EU countries. This is probably the goal of many entrepreneurs who have moved to one of the European Union countries. Why? Because up to 400 million people live in the European Union. It's a huge market, like America, for example, and 10 times bigger than Ukraine has ever been. How do you launch commerce in EU countries? Why am I asking this? Because there are many countries in the EU, and you first need to launch commerce in one particular country, and then scale this process to other countries. The old way of launching was to create separate websites or subdomains for each country. This is quite a complicated option. Why? Because you would have to manage separate websites. It's very difficult. That's how IKEA, Zara, and other well-known brands used to do it. But they have moved on to a more innovative approach, which has already been tested and is working. The second option is to create a website with regional folders and within them language folder. Namely, for example, you have a website and inside it you create a folder, say Germany or Poland or Portugal. Inside that, there are additional language folders, Polish, German, and so on. First, you go through moderation in Merchant Center for a specific country, and then you scale this process to other countries by adding separate countries to your website. In the individual folders, you take into account regional stock and delivery conditions. Next, you can create separate feeds for each country and add them to Merchant Center. And then you specify the delivery conditions for each individual country. This is exactly how you can scale your business within the European Union and deliver products to specific countries in the Union. This is how it works for brands like Zara, IKEA, and others. Today, I was with you, Yevhen Kolostenko, an expert in Google advertising and analytics in Ukraine. For additional information, please contact the agency using the provided contact details.